Monthly stimulus checks beginning in July for some people. Hey everybody, it's JJ here. You're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust. Now, I think a lot of us here expect that monthly stimulus checks is going to be eventually the norm. What some people would call UBI and what some lawmakers have been calling for many, many years now. Well, with the crisis that we saw in the past year here with the Great Sickness and all of the economic devastation, well, it's looking more and more likely. And starting this year in July 2021, certain people are going to be getting monthly stimulus checks. So let's talk about it. Now, before we get into the news, please make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get all these updates. We'll start here with a recent article out of MoneyWise. The new monthly stimulus checks for families may continue for years. New monthly stimulus checks for families may continue for years. So it looks like they're starting off and they're doing this incrementally. It's starting off right now, the monthly checks for people that have kids. Now, of course, this is on top of already checks that have already been sent out for stimulus checks to millions of Americans. But these have only been 2 or 3 times per year. This latest plan or development is going to be monthly checks now for reoccurring months. Now, we'll see if it's going to be permanent or temporary, but here's what we have so far. Families are still a few months away from monthly checks, stimulus checks of sort, and they're scheduled to get during the second half of this year. And these credits are up to $300 per child, and they're scheduled to start going out in July as part of a 1-year expansion of the child tax credit. And the president is making this a less temporary credit under the American Families Plan that he just laid out here recently. Also, some lawmakers want to make these permanent to help families during this time to what they're calling fight debt and pay essential bills and end child poverty in the U.S. Couples who file taxes jointly and earn less than $150,000 or individuals that make $75,000 or less get tax credits of $3,600 for each kid who's age 5 years or younger and $3,000 per child age 6 through 17. Families will receive the first half of the fatter credit in the form of monthly checks of either $250 per child 5 and under or $300 per child ages 6 to 17 starting in July and continuing through the end of the year. Now, here's what one of the lawmakers is saying as to the reason why this should be a permanent monthly payout. Quote, for our economy to fully recover from this pandemic, we must finally acknowledge that workers have families and caregiving responsibilities are real, says a representative. And a bill was introduced to permanently extend the credit. Now, I don't think any of you listening to this today are going to be the least bit surprised at this development, and we know that these payouts are likely going to increase and get more frequent, and eventually it's going to be probably most of the population on some sort of monthly payout at some point. Why? Because the cost of living is not being controlled. Inflation is being encouraged by the money policies from the money printers. And this will further incentivize more people not to work, even people that can find jobs in some cases, and I think in many cases are going to choose not to work instead. And it's going to be harder and harder for small businesses to get people to want to work for a paycheck when they're competing with the money printers. And small businesses are going to have a more difficult time meeting the demands of having to pay more to encourage people to actually work for their money. And this will allow the mega corporations to control a bigger and bigger market share. Right? So of course there are people out there that need help, especially with people with kids. They have high expenses, high overhead, a lot of bills to pay, and prices are only rising for most of the things that we need as people to survive: housing, food, energy, you name it. But instead of controlling the cost of living and letting prices correct, what would we call a deflationary correction, it's only inflation that's being pumped out by the money printers. So that's going to be used as the reason why we need these reoccurring stimulus checks. So it's going to start off with people that have kids, but then it's only going to expand. And ultimately, I think at some point, the final solution is going to be everyone, or most people at least, on some sort of monthly payout. Now, those stimulus checks are for people with kids. Well, what about everybody else? Well, there is talk of another, now fourth stimulus check for the rest of the qualifying population, the rest of taxpayers. And this is out of SI Alive or SILive.com. And the fourth check is in the works. Lawmakers are currently pushing for this as part of the Build Back Better long-term economic plan. But here's the key word in here right here, urging the president to support reoccurring payments. Reoccurring payments. So it's knocking on the door. It's not just a fourth stimulus check, but it's going to be a fifth, sixth, infinite stimulus checks every month is what they're looking at. Also, according to recent U.S. Census Bureau data, nearly 30% of Americans came up short when trying to cover household expenses. Right? So not only are most people living paycheck to paycheck or payout to payout in this case, a big portion of the population has to borrow or go further into debt just to come up and meet their basic monthly household expenses. And that's why you see so many people now waiting in food lines. And the food lines actually do not seem to be diminishing. It seems to be they're just as bad or worse in some areas as even during the midst of the great sickness crisis. Now, here's an article out of Newsweek. Here's how they're putting it. They're saying the fourth stimulus check, billionaires that made money during the great sickness profits could easily fund 2 more payments. Right now, many people would say, yeah, that's fair. You know, the billionaires, they made a lot of money during that time, and they should be the ones paying for the stimulus check. Or others would say, hey, you've got a printing press in the background with unlimited money printing capabilities. Why should any person or business pay for this? And they can just create infinite amounts of money out of thin air forever. But we all know where it leads, folks. It leads to a rougher time for the working person, for someone that actually does go out and work and earn their paycheck. And they're going to see more of their pay taken and rising prices. Ultimately, they're going to pay for it in some form or another. And you're going to see how your taxes go up. Even your property taxes will go up with the housing bubble continuing to be inflated. The cost of everything continuing to skyrocket, and the working class is going to be paying for it. You can bet that. So I hope everybody's well. Keep on preparing. Stock up on essentials because prices are going to continue to rise unless something happens, unless the plug is pulled on this infinite printing press in the background. Thanks everybody for watching this report. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe, stay prepared. Until next time, talk to you soon. Bye for now. Peace.